Hey everyone, and welcome to another deep dive with us. This time we're going to be taking a look at a book I'm sure a lot of you have at least heard of.
Definitely a popular one.
Yeah, The Giver by Lois Lowry.
It's a classic.
A classic. Now this one is, it's dystopian, right?
Yes. Falls squarely in the dystopian genre.
Okay. And I think, I know it won some awards.
It won the Newbery Award back in 1994.
1994. Okay, so, and it's been pretty, I know it's been challenged and banned in some places.
Oh, absolutely. It's been, it's been controversial, yeah.
Yeah, so very interesting. So what we're going to do is we're going to kind of unpack this book a little bit and see what it's all about. So for our listeners out there who maybe are literature students, this is for you. So it's basically this idea that, imagine a world where there's no pain and suffering.
Right. Sounds pretty good, right?
Sounds pretty good on the surface.
At first glance, yeah.
But, of course, there's always a trade-off.
Always a catch.
There's a catch,
Get
right.
that.
And the catch here is no individuality or emotions.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So that's what we're going to explore today. So to help me with this, we have a literary expert joining us today.
Hi.
So let's jump right in. What is the setting like in this book? Can you kind of take us to that place?
Yeah, so Lowry kind of drops us right into this community.
Okay.
And at first glance, it seems, like a utopia. Everything's very structured, very organized. Everyone has a role. There's no want, no hunger. Everything's very controlled.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
But like I said before, there's always a catch. And it sounds like the catch here is this concept of sameness.
Yeah, exactly. Sameness is kind of the bedrock of this society.
Right.
And, it's not just like, oh, we're all going to wear the same clothes and have the same haircuts. It's much deeper than that. They've eliminated not only pain and conflict, but things like color,
Really?
weather. Yeah, they've even manipulated the terrain so everything is kind of uniform.
Wow, that's crazy. It's like they've erased any sense of variety or difference.
Right. And it's all in the name of kind of creating this perfect society, this, stable, equal society. But as you dig deeper, you realize, it's not true equality.
Right. It's an equality born out of suppression.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's talk about our main character, Jonas. Who is he in this world?
So Jonas is a 12-year-old boy. He's about to go through this ceremony of 12 where he's going to be assigned his life's work.
Okay. Typical kind of dystopian thing where your whole life is planned out for you.
Right, exactly. But Jonas gets chosen for this very unique role. He becomes the receiver of memory.
Oh, the receiver of memory. That sounds really interesting. What does that even mean in this world?
Well, you can kind of think of it as like the keeper of the past. He's the one who holds all the memories that the community has decided to forget.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So it's a huge responsibility, and it really sets him apart from everyone else. Like, his training involves isolation. He can't really talk to his peers about what he's learning. He's given secrets. He's allowed to lie, which are all things that are, totally against the norms of the community.
So it's like in this world that's obsessed with sameness, he's being singled out and given this role that forces him to be different.
Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, and who's kind of guiding him through this whole process?
Yeah, so he has a mentor, the current receiver, who Jonas calls the Giver.
As a giver.
And that's where things get really interesting, because the Giver starts sharing these memories with Jonas, not just, happy memories, but also memories of pain and suffering, all the things that the community has tried to erase.
Oh, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
So it's like he's getting this crash course in what it actually means to be human.
Exactly.
Right, with all the good and the bad. So what are some of those memories that he experiences that really stand out?
Well, imagine a world where you've never seen snow before.
Okay.
Or felt the wind on your face, or gone sledding. Jonas gets to experience all of that for the first time.
Wow.
And then on the flip side, he's also exposed to things like war, hunger, loss, emotions that are completely foreign to him.
So he's basically experiencing the full spectrum of human emotions for the first time. It must be completely overwhelming for him.
Absolutely. And it's a process of disillusionment, right? Because he's starting to question everything he thought he knew about his world. And then there's also this mystery surrounding the previous receiver in training, Rosemary.
Rosemary.
Yeah, her story is only hinted at in the beginning, but, it kind of foreshadows some of the dangers that Jonas might be facing.
Oh, okay. So there's some suspense building there, too.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, this is getting really interesting. Before we move on, though, we haven't talked about Gabriel yet, and I know he plays a pretty important role.
Yeah, Gabriel. So he's this baby that Jonas's father, who's a nurturer, brings home. And he's not thriving. He's having some trouble. But what makes Gabriel really significant is that he has these pale eyes, just like Jonas and the Giver.
Okay, so pale eyes, why is that so important?
Well, because in the community, like, physical differences, anything like that is seen as undesirable.
Okay.
And babies that don't conform are released.
Released.
Yeah, it's,
That sounds ominous.
it is. And we actually see Jonas's father perform a release on Gabriel's identical twin.
Oh, wow. So this is where we start to see the really dark side of this supposedly perfect world.
Exactly. And it's really chilling when you realize that release doesn't mean going somewhere else. It means death.
Wow. And Jonas's father, a nurturer, is the one carrying out these releases.
Yeah, it's really a turning point in the book because it completely shatters that illusion of utopia.
Right. And I imagine this is a huge turning point for Jonas as well.
Oh, absolutely. He's devastated. He sees his father as a murderer. But the Giver explains to him that, the community members don't actually understand what they're doing. They lack the memories.
They don't have a context.
Yeah, the context to understand the morality of their actions.
So they've been conditioned to believe that this is just the way things are.
Right. And that's why the memories that Jonas is carrying are so important.
Right, because he's the only one who can actually see the truth.
Exactly.
Oh, wow. So what happens next? What does Jonas do with this knowledge?
Well, he and the Giver realize that they can't just stay silent.
Right.
So they come up with this plan to try and return the memories to the community,
Okay.
hoping to awaken them to the truth.
Okay.
And the plan involves Jonas escaping to this place called Elsewhere.
Elsewhere. So it's like this mythical place. You don't even know if it actually exists.
Yeah, it's this unknown. And initially they plan to kind of fake Jonas's drowning.
Oh.
But things happen and they have to kind of make a run for it sooner than expected.
Okay, so what happens? What forces their hand?
Gabriel.
Gabriel, the
Yeah.
baby.
Yeah, he's scheduled to be released.
Oh, no.
And Jonas, knowing what that actually means,
Right.
he can't let that happen.
Wow, so their escape becomes this desperate flight for survival.
Exactly.
It's not just about Jonas anymore, it's about saving Gabriel, too.
Right.
Oh, this is intense. So what happens during the escape? What do they go through?
Well, it's a harrowing journey.
Can I add that?
They're facing hunger, cold, they're constantly on the run, always looking over their shoulder.
Yeah.
And the whole time, Jonas is carrying Gabriel.
It's like he's literally carrying the weight of memories, the hope for a better future.
Yeah. And you're touching on some really important themes there.
Mhm.
And it all kind of culminates in this really ambiguous ending.
The ending, yes. Everyone talks about the ending of The Giver. What happens?
Well, they reach this border, this kind of point of no return. And Jonas, he has this ability, he can kind of see beyond now. And he sees a sled waiting for them on a snowy hill.
Oh, wow. Okay.
There's this sense of warmth, maybe even music. But whether they actually survive or not, it's left up to the reader to decide.
Wow. That's a powerful image to end on.
Yeah, and it really encapsulates a lot of the book's themes, hope, resilience, this pursuit of something better, even when you don't know what's out there.
This is amazing.
Yeah.
So much to think about already. Let's take a quick break, and then we'll come back and really dive into those themes.
Sounds good.
All right, we're back. And I'm still kind of reeling from all that we just talked about. There's so much to unpack here.
It's a lot to process.
Yeah, it's amazing how Lowry, manages to pack all these complex themes into this, seemingly straightforward story.
She's a master of that,
Ah.
really subtle, nuanced writing. It's a great book for like a literature class,
Oh, definitely.
Lots to analyze, lots of symbols and stuff like that.
Yeah. Okay, so let's dig into some of those themes. I think the one that really jumps out at me is this idea of memory, right?
Yeah.
Like the community in The Giver, they've chosen to suppress all these memories, the good and the bad.
Right.
So what do you think Lowry's trying to say about the dangers of forgetting the past?
Well, I mean, it's a huge question, and it goes beyond just the book, right? Like, what happens when we forget our history,
Right.
our good times, our bad times? I mean, we lose that connection to who we are, to where we came from. And I think Lowry's saying, you can't just erase the past and expect to have a healthy, functioning society.
Right. It's like they've created this stability and order but at what cost?
Exactly. They've lost the ability to feel empathy, to learn from their mistakes. They're very easily manipulated because they don't have that foundation.
So it's kind of like it's a cautionary tale about trying to create a utopia through, control and conformity.
Exactly. I mean, on the surface, sameness might sound appealing, right? No
Mhm.
conflict, no pain. But what you end up with is this very sterile, emotionless, dehumanizing world.
So it's like it's not really a utopia, it's a dystopian in disguise.
Right. And Lowry doesn't give us any easy answers, which is what makes it so interesting.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah,
It makes
yeah.
us think about, like, what are the trade-offs? What are the limits of trying to create a perfect world? What about individual freedom?
Right. So let's talk about Jonas's journey. It's almost like a classic hero's journey, but with a twist.
Right.
Right? He's not fighting a physical enemy. He's fighting against this whole ideology.
Exactly. Yeah, Jonas is a symbol of resistance. He's
Mm.
waking up to the truth and he's willing to challenge this whole system of thinking.
He's carrying the burden of knowledge and trying to do something with it.
Right, and that's what makes him such a compelling character. He's willing to risk everything for a chance at something better, even though he doesn't even know what that is.
So there's this sense of hope, even though it's such a dangerous path he's chosen.
Absolutely. And I think Lowry is saying, even in the darkest of times, that hope, that possibility for change, that's what makes us human.
I love that.
Mm.
One thing I want to go back to is Jonas's father.
Mm-hmm.
It's such a complex character, right?
It is.
Because he's a nurturer, so he's
Yeah.
supposed to be this caring figure, but he's also the one who's performing these releases.
Right, right. It's a really tough one to wrap your head around.
So how do we reconcile those two sides of him?
Well, I think it shows how, morality can get really twisted in a controlled society like this. I
Mhm.
mean, Jonas's father has been conditioned to believe that what he's doing is merciful,
Right.
that he's maintaining order, he doesn't have the memories, the emotional capacity to really understand the weight of what he's doing.
So in a way, he's a victim of the system too.
In a way, yeah, he doesn't know any better.
And this kind of goes back to the whole idea of language manipulation, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Like the community uses these euphemisms, release, sameness,
Elsewhere.
elsewhere,
Yeah.
to kind of mask the truth.
Right, and it makes it easier for people to go along with things without questioning them. It's really chilling when you think about it.
It's like, language can be used as this tool of oppression.
Yeah, very much so.
So it's a reminder for us to be critical thinkers,
Right.
to not just take things at face value, to really question the narratives that we're being given.
To look beyond the surface, yeah.
Okay, so we've talked about some of the big themes.
Mm-hmm.
What about some of the symbols? Because I know this book is full of
Oh,
them.
yeah. Tons.
Okay, so what are some of the key ones that a literature student should pay attention to? Start with color. Like it's completely absent for most of the book, and then Jonas starts to see like glimpses of red.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the significance of that?
Well, I mean, color, and especially red, it symbolizes like the awakening of emotions, the vibrancy of the world that they've been denied.
It's like it represents the fullness of human experience.
Yeah. All the things that the community has tried to get rid of in the name of sameness.
Okay, that makes sense. What about the sled?
Yeah.
Because that image comes up a few times.
Yeah, the sled. Well, I think it symbolizes freedom, escape, this journey towards a different way of life, this hope that there's something better out there.
And it connects back to his earliest memory of joy, right?
Exactly. It's like this full circle moment, this hope that maybe he can recapture that joy, that freedom.
Okay, this is amazing. I'm seeing the book in a whole new light.
Mm.
Is there anything like about the writing style itself that a literature student should pay attention to?
Yeah, definitely. One thing I would point out is how Lowry's language changes as Jonas starts experiencing these memories.
Oh, interesting. So how does it change?
Well, in the beginning, it's very simple, very functional,
Okay.
kind of reflects the community's emphasis on practicality. But as Jonas gets more memories, his language becomes more complex, more nuanced.
It's like mirroring his internal transformation.
Exactly. It's really subtle, but it's very effective.
Okay, this is blowing my mind. The Giver is so much more than just a dystopian novel.
Right.
It's about memory, it's about freedom, it's about the power of language, it's about the resilience of the human spirit.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
So before we wrap up, I have to ask you this.
Hmm.
The ending, famously ambiguous.
Oh, yeah.
So what do you think happened?
Well, the beauty of the ending is that it's open to interpretation.
Okay, no spoilers then.
Hmm.
But if you were Jonas, faced with that choice, sameness or freedom in memory, which would you choose?
Wow. That's the ultimate question, isn't it? A life of blissful ignorance or a life of pain, but also, joy and self-discovery.
It's a choice we all face in some way, I think.
Absolutely. But for me, I'd choose knowledge. I'd choose freedom, even with all the risks.
Because as the giver says, it's the memories that shape us.
Exactly. The memories that make us who we are.
Wow. I feel like we could talk about this book for hours.
Oh, easily. There's just so much there.
Yeah, it's amazing. So before we wrap up this deep dive into The Giver, I wanted to ask if you had one piece of advice for our listeners out there, for those who are about to read this book for the first time, what would it be?
One piece of advice. I'd say pay attention to how Lowry uses the point of view.
Okay, the point of
Yeah,
view.
yeah, because the whole story is told from Jonas's perspective.
Right.
So we're seeing everything through his eyes, like we're experiencing the world as he does.
So we feel what he feels.
Yeah, exactly. Like that shock of seeing color for the first time, or the thrill of that sled ride, the horror of the release. We're right there with him.
Right.
And as he's changing, as his understanding of the world is evolving, so is ours.
So as a reader, we're not just like passively observing. We're actively engaged in his journey.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's what makes it so powerful, so thought-provoking. It's not just a story happening to someone else. It's like it's happening to us.
Right. Okay, that's great advice. I know I'll never forget the first time I read this book. It really stayed with me.
It's one of those books, yeah. It makes you think about the world differently.
It does. Well, I think that's about all the time we have for today, but wow, what an amazing book.
It really is.
So much to think about. So to our listeners, if you haven't already, definitely pick up a copy of The Giver. It's a journey you won't regret.
You won't.
And thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We'll be back soon with another book to explore, so stay tuned.